Hi, welcome. Welcome to this week's Cool Chief episode. Today's topic is a little more on the serious side, but very appropriate because we are in October, and October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And today I have Kim Friedman Landau with me. Kim has a master's in social work and has spent the majority of her career working in oncology, working with cancer patients. And she herself is a breast cancer survivor. So who better, right, to educate us in today's world about what we could potentially be doing to make sure that we're checking all the boxes when it comes to our tatas. So for those of you who have never seen one of these shows before and you don't know who I am, my name is Jack Perez, and I am the CEO and founder of Kuel. Kuel is an online platform and a curated shopping experience for us ladies in midlife. So us broads over 45, right? And yes, I spell Kuel Life all cattywampus with a K, so it's Kuellife. The platform has a lot of digital content, ladies, that is all relevant to us women in midlife. Kim is actually a now monthly blogger as well, so you'll have to go check out her blogs. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Kim, why don't you do me the honor of introducing yourself a little bit, and then we will dive into the meat of the topic about breast cancer. That works?
Thank you so much for having me here, and it's really important we decided to do this in October because you all see everywhere it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So as you said, Jack, I was an oncology social worker. I did other things too, but I've spent most of my career and my personal life helping family and friends get through the cancer experience, including myself. I'm a 12-year survivor of breast cancer. And my mom had breast cancer, my maternal aunt had breast cancer, and two of my cousins had breast cancer, as some of my friends and many acquaintances.
So is breast cancer then, it sounds like it's partly genetic, or, I mean, it runs in families?
Well, that's a really interesting point. It can be genetic, but it isn't always genetic. Okay. So everybody's probably heard of the BRCA gene. My family was tested for that, and we don't actually have it. But obviously something's going on for so many of the women in my family. The reality is, though, is that most women who get breast cancer do not have a family history of it or any genetic component. So if you do have a family component, and I urge you to talk to your family, and it could come through the father's side as well. It's not just through the mother's side. If there is a history of breast cancer in your family, your risk is higher to get breast cancer. But if there is no history at all, it doesn't mean you're, quote, safe from it.
Okay, that's a really good point. So it sounds like we all need to take it seriously, that no one can just say, oh, there's been no breast cancer in my family, I'm golden, that it doesn't really matter, that we all are at risk.
Yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of risk factors. I knew at a very young age that I had like 9 out of the 11 risk factors. And did that stop me from getting the breast cancer? No. But we are all at risk, and there are a lot of things we can do. I'm very into not blaming the victim. This is not about if you do these things, you won't get breast cancer, and if you don't do these things, you're going to get it, and it's your fault. I'm absolutely not trying to say that. What I'm trying to say is we can be proactive about our health.
Sure. And I mean, I think we can be proactive about our health in many areas, but what's really great about breast cancer is that we do have some diagnostics that are available to us that aren't necessarily available for other forms of diseases. So Kim, you have so much experience in this arena. Could you give the Kuel Life community some actionable sort of, here are like the 4 or 5 ways that you can go about, taking care of your health when it comes to your breast?
Yes.
What do you recommend?
Absolutely. First of all, try and understand your own risk factors. That includes the family that we talked about. It includes the type of breast tissue you actually have. It includes whether your pregnancy history, at what age you were pregnant, if you were ever pregnant. It includes your menstrual history. It includes whether you postmenopausal, you took hormone replacement. It's debatable whether you ever took the birth control pill. So there are a lot of things you can look at. Also your own behaviors, such as how much alcohol you're drinking, your weight, your amount of exercise. So
what about smoking? I heard smoking can also affect your
I
risk.
think smoking, that's really interesting. I think smoking can affect almost every type of cancer in our body. So I don't think it's particular to breast cancer. So
Right. Well, it is a carcinogen, right? So I guess that would, your body just probably doesn't like it at all, no matter what, no matter what tissue it is.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, you mentioned a lot of variables, a ton of variables, but maybe we could provide an updated blog post or something like that about what about those variables, because like, what should you be asking? What are the specific questions that you should be asking? And we can potentially follow up with a post on the site, ladies, for you to download so that you can get more specific information on what about the variables that Kim just talked about should we be worried about or asking about. Okay. So what else? What else should we be doing?
Sure. Okay. You should be talking to your doctor about what kind of screening is appropriate for you. And that can vary depending on your risk factors. So my sister, who now has me, her mother, and cousins, all breast cancer survivors, she may need, and she did different things that maybe the average woman with average risk wouldn't do. And that was a conversation she needed to have with her physician. So I urge you all to talk to your physicians and figure out together what is going to be the best way to go forward for yourself. Hopefully, anyone watching this, you're most likely over 45, so hopefully you've all gotten at least some screenings in by now. But this is also, hopefully you're also going to go talk to your sisters and your mothers and your daughters and your daughter-in-laws and nieces, etc. So I want you to do that. Think about talking to your doctor about what you should be doing, and then go get the screening. It's scary. We all get scared. I get that. I've been there. But it's, knowledge is power. And we have screenings today that can do an amazingly good job at catching cancer early enough to have a long-term survival rate. It's not always possible, but we do have that available. And in the past, we didn't have all of that available. So.
Yeah, and I can speak to I have not had breast cancer, but every single time, Kim, that I have had a mammogram, I have had to have a biopsy. Every single time.
Yeah.
And so every single time I'm playing the whole game in my head, although now I don't really play that game in my head anymore, because clearly my breasts are persnickety, and so even if that's happening, you still need to go get the screenings. Even, you can't just say, just because I've had, 3 biopsies and they've all come back negative, that must mean that I'm just never going to get cancer. You still need to go get the screenings, ladies.
Right.
And then you get to be scared all over again every single time.
Yes. And I actually went through that. My first biopsy was in my 20s. And I am still 12 years later, after being a survivor and going through all the treatments and feeling pretty good and very healthy, I still get scared twice a year when I go for my mammogram and my MRI. So that leads me to another point you were talking about. Something you can do is really, really get to know your own breasts. Get to know what they look like. We're all getting older, we're all sagging, but if that changes, the way that looks, if that doesn't look like a natural process anymore, or how they actually feel. Jackie talked about having persnickety, we call them lumpy or fibrous breasts, dense breast material.
I'm really dense. And so, yeah.
Okay. They tell you that. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're at higher risk for a breast cancer, but it does mean it's harder to detect. And this is really done to educate you all. I went for every screening, and yet I knew my breasts. And so when they told me I was fine, And 2 weeks later, I found a lump that was not on the mammogram that turned out to be my cancer. That happened because I knew what was normal in my breast and what was not. And I went back to the doctor and said, this is not normal. This lump wasn't there.
So that's a really good point, Kim, because yes, there are diagnostics available, but honestly, it's a picture, it's a moment in time. It doesn't then, keep up with how your breasts are changing. And if there is a delta, if there is something different, it would be great if you as an individual could tell, because then you can go back and request further screening, request, raise your hand and say, listen, I know that it came out fine 2 weeks ago, but I'm letting you know right now something's different today. So that's great. I mean, thank God you did that.
Exactly. Who knows what would have happened if I didn't do that? And it was scary. It was really scary. And yet in the end, it was the right thing. And I'm glad I did it, sitting here 12 years later. So
yeah. Healthy and happy and part of Cool Life. I'm glad you did it too.
So another thing I think would be really important, this is big for me, is to get past the shame and maybe the embarrassment. I think that's changing quite a bit. But I think we have to talk about it like we're doing today. Many, many years ago, I went through infertility in my 20s, and I never talked about it. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I felt really lonely. I didn't understand anything. That doesn't have to happen. So at 51, when I got the breast cancer, I shouted it from the rooftops. And I was educating, and I was talking, and I found support, and I got knowledge. And I think we as sisters, Cool Life sisters and otherwise, I think we owe it to ourselves and to our sisters to be there for each other, to talk about it, to go to the mammogram, to go to the doctor's office, to hold each other's hands, to encourage each other to do this. So I think that's really important.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So just to recap what you were talking about, just at a high level, it's like what I'm hearing you say is that, first of all, you got to get the history in your family, and you've got to ask the people, hopefully, if your mom is still alive, your dad's still alive. If they're not, it might be a little more difficult. You might have to get it from cousins or aunts, or just, remembering what your parents went through.
Yes.
And then I also heard, review your life, how you're living your life, sort of the behaviors that you have, what medications you've taken, what kind of alcohol consumption, and we're going to put that in a more detailed fashion in a blog, so that you ladies can really figure out what the variables are that you should be looking at. And then I heard, well, go get the screenings. That's what they're there for.
Yes.
Go to the doctor, get the screenings. And then I heard, don't trust the screenings 100%.
Well, yeah,
Right?
yeah. I'm sorry it came across as a mixed message, but
I didn't hear it as a mixed message. I heard, get the screenings, but also make sure that you are an advocate for your own health, and that you are paying attention to what potentially could be changing in your body, because the screening might not catch it.
Yes. And I've heard terrible stories of women that felt something and knew something, and the doctor says, poo-pooed it. If you have to know your body, and if you know something doesn't feel right, you need to advocate for yourself. So.
And then last but not least, I heard that we need to advocate for each other too.
Yes. Yep. Sister power, and yes.
Right. And that there is no shame in getting sick. It's not anything that we quote did, or it's not because we're weak, or it's not because, we're not good people. Cancer does not care.
No, cancer doesn't care who we are. It can happen to any of us and all of us. I always had a sense it was going to happen to me, but you know what? Dear friend of mine, age 40, her first mammogram, they found it. They found her cancer. Right. And you just really never know. And I'm not advocating that we all live in fear of getting breast cancer all the time. That's really not the way to go.
Or any kind of cancer. I mean, I lost a very dear friend, as you know, this past summer to colon cancer. And she was in her 50s, and it came out of nowhere, and it didn't care. It didn't care what kind of person Robin was or is. Or was, I should say. So ladies, if you have any questions for Kim, regarding any concerns about breast cancer or the factors, the variables, or you just want to reach out and get some support, please do so. Write them in the comments, private message me or direct message me, or send me an email or Kim an email. I will make sure she gets it. You can email me at connect@kuellife.com. So that would be CONNECT@kuellife.com. If you have a question or a concern that you don't feel comfortable putting out on social media, we completely understand and respect that, but we will get back to you. I will make sure Kim gets back to you because she's the expert in this arena. And Kim, thank you so much for your time today and for letting us know that there are things that we can do to further our health and to keep ourselves healthy. And if, heaven forfend, something were to happen, at least get ahead of it so that you can be a survivor. I have this beautiful woman sitting in front of me because she's a survivor, and that's awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Jack. And thank you all the Kuel Lifers out there for listening. And I am happy to be here for more questions and anything. So.
Okay, wonderful. Until the next time, my friend.